Hey, I'm Oliver Carlson, and in this video I'd like to talk about some of the updates that Mohammed Rashid and myself have ready for you here for the Power Query Builder for the XrmToolBox. So I'll go ahead and open it up, and just note this is the latest version here that I'm doing this video on is version 7.7. So I'll go ahead and open it, load all the entities as usual, and in this case I will use opportunities as an example. So I'll select my opportunity entity, and all the individual fields, everything views will be received, and I can actually look through all of my different views here and select a current view that I already have in my system. In this case, for example, it's a user view. Now, before I start adding all the opportunities of records inside Dynamics 365, what I'll do first is generate the service root URL and basically prepare my Power BI data model to use the connection. So I'll cut and paste the service root URL here, go back to my Power BI desktop and go to the edit queries area and go ahead and say new source and blank query. In blank query, I'll paste the service URL here, and note now that we can actually use version 9.0, which is supported in the latest late June update of the Power BI desktop client. And I want to make sure here that I rename this query to service root URL. This is so Power BI can basically use this string in all of its other queries. So let me get back to the XrmToolBox, and we'll look at all the tables and columns here. So notice all these selected fields here are the ones that I already had in my view that I selected. So I'm going to go ahead and try and generate the query here. And we have a couple more options. We have the generate OData, which has been available. Now we also have a fetch XML version, and we can generate the option sets separately. So I'll go ahead and click on update fetch XML, because this option here contains a lot of accelerators. So notice here we now have the same list of fields, but multiple versions sometimes of the same field. For example, on the customer field, or the potential customer, we now have 3 fields that the fetch XMLs have broken that one field into because it's a lookup. So in this version, we can see here that we can have the customer ID, which is the unique ID of that individual record. It also brings in the type, so we know if that potential customer is an account or a contact. And then it also brings in the formatted value, which is really, really nice because that means we don't have to make those changes afterwards. The same thing for the standard lookup fields like contact, brings in both the ID and the formatted value of the contact. And the same thing for the option sets here, so we can see the rating, opportunity rating code, will bring in the formatted value as well as the value label and the value within the database itself. So for example, for status reason, if we didn't want to include the status code, the actual value, we just want the name, we can actually remove some of the individual fields from here. And we can make some more changes, like we can drag and drop these fields different places, change the order. And also note here, even though I have not selected it, the opportunity ID is included automatically, as we'll very likely need that in any data model that we're working with. And also the filter from the fetch XML has been included over here. So if you do have a filter and you want to include it in your query inside Power BI, you just leave it as is. If you want to include all the records from the system, you basically just remove it from here. I'm going to leave it in as is and click on generate fetch XML, which now gives me this whole fetch XML string and a Power Query string, which includes this fetch part to be more specific. So I'll actually just go ahead and copy everything. I'll go back to Power BI and I'll create a new blank query. And I'll select Advanced Editor again. And go ahead and cut and paste the whole thing and click Done. And as everything's loading, I'll change the label here to Opportunities. And now we can see here that data is loaded. We have the name of the opportunity. Notice here for the potential customer, we have the potential customer name. We have the type, is it an account or a contact? And we have the potential customer ID. Also note over here, the same thing for the contact. We have both the contact ID as well as the contact name. On the rating, we have both the rating, is it hot, warm, cold, with the label, as well as the opportunity rating code. So we can see is this a 1 or 2 or 3 or 0 or whatever those values might be. Nobody really knows or try to memorize those, and we don't need to any longer. And here, for example, on the status reason, I have my status reason here with the label as well. And of course, finally, I have the opportunity ID. Another thing I want to highlight here is that we can actually see all the data types have been changed automatically here in the last step. So dates, estimated close date has been changed to a date type. The created on type is using the date time zone timestamp. All the value fields are being changed into number type fields, text fields, etc. That's one of the challenges with using Fetch XML in Power BI is that any field will be set to the data type any, but the tool here actually has an individual step where it goes in and changes all of those to its proper type. And that's basically it. Now we're ready to go use all this data, and everything of course has been renamed with the display names that's being used inside of Dynamics 365, so you don't have to sit and change out those either. And of course be aware here that some of these, like potential customer field, will be broken into multiple fields with these postfixes here. In the parentheses you can see the different types, if it's the ID, the type, or in this case potential customer, just the name of the value itself. Just head back to the XrmToolBox tool. We can actually see here that we could also use the generate an OData query instead. This would be the traditional way if you did this directly through directly through Power BI and use the built-in connection. This is the exact same script that you would do in this manner. You don't really have any filters. Just be noted that this version here of the OData feed does support the latest version. So you of the Power BI desktop and the OData querying. So you do need to have the latest version of Power Query in order to be able to use this. You can also use the option sets and generate option sets individually. So for example, for the opportunity rating code, if we wanted to use that separately as a query, I could go ahead and create that here. And I'll just basically again cut and paste the whole thing. Say done. And we'll call this rating code. And now I have the value, the descriptions, the labels, and also potentially the colors if any of those were used inside of Dynamics 365. So I can bring this in as a separate table. However, if you are using Fetch XML, that may not be needed, as you can bring in all of those labels directly in here, and you don't even need to use these rating codes. We can actually just go ahead and remove that column if we don't want to use it. All right, that was some of the updates for the tool here. So you can basically come in, select your views, select your fields, etc., and hit update Fetch XML and start generating those queries, and very easily, very quickly bring in a lot of information into Power BI and have it transformed into a format where it looks a lot more like your Dynamics 365 data than it does when you just pull it into Power BI out of the box. So please let us know in the comments if you have any good ideas, find any bugs, any issues, etc. We would love to hear it. We would love to improve the tool. So thank you for listening, and let us know. Thank you.